welcome to a brand new episode of the TraxionGG podcast. Today we're going to be talking about Forza Horizon 5. And joining us to talk about this exciting game is Justin Sutton. How are you doing, Justin?
I'm fantastic. Because who else would you bring on to talk about Forza Horizon?
Exactly. the resident Traxion Forza Horizon expert. And we're pumped. Is that correct, would you say?
Yes, I'm very excited. I'll get this right out of the gate. I've only played 3 and 4 because I'm a PC gamer, and 1 and 2 never were made available on PC. So I've only played the 2 most recent ones, but I've played them a lot. Between the 2 of them, it's probably close to 1,000 hours. So yeah, I'm a big fan.
Nice. Yeah. And Justin's obviously, if you listen to the podcast for a while, he's mentioned Forza Horizon 4 many times. And we've talked about Horizon 4 specifically in the past. But now we've got 5 on the way. 9th of November on Xbox One, Xbox Series S and X, PC via the Microsoft Store and via Steam, I believe, which is cool. And we've mentioned it before. There's a load of articles on TraxionGG. It's looking rather fine. And it's in Mexico. But you all know that already, right? But here's why you should be excited for it, we believe, having not played it yet. Hopefully we'll do soon. The first thing I would just say is it's been 3 years since Forza Horizon 4. Normally it's been a 2-year cycle. So do you think that they will refine some of the elements that perhaps weren't so ideal with 4, even though it was a great game? Obviously, there's always room for improvement.
So that was my hope. Before they ever announced Horizon 5 earlier this year and stuff like that, we actually did an article on the website, if you haven't been. We did an article talking about our wish list, things that we wanted in Forza Horizon 5 and stuff like that. And my wish list was very simple. I really wanted just a little bit of polish, things that weren't quite working perfectly, just to be tweaked ever so slightly. I wasn't looking for a revolution, just an evolution of the latest title, because I thought it was great in spite of the problems that it had. It's an 11 out of 10 game that has some problems that bring it down to maybe 9.5 in my opinion. So when they started coming out and saying like, oh, all this new stuff, and there is a lot of new stuff. I mean, if you go to the website and you click on Forza Horizon as like a category at the top and see all the articles that we posted in the recent weeks and months and stuff like that, it's just like a deluge of information. Like the floodwaters have washed everything away. It's insane. It's a crazy amount of information. And part of me is a little concerned that they're doing too much. But as you mentioned, it has been 3 years. They've had more time with this one than any of them. Well, since the first one. I don't know how many years they had for Forza Horizon 1, but for all the sequels, for 2, 3, and 4, they had 2 years. So I'm hopeful. I'm also optimistic, I would say, as well. I hadn't really thought about that, but I would say I am optimistic. But yeah, they just need to get some stuff right. But there's a lot of new stuff as well. Yeah,
I think my takeaway from this constant, I think they would call it in the trade, always on PR strategy, where there's almost something almost every week, at least, sometimes 2 or 3 things to talk about. And they do these Let's Go video premieres and streams on the internet, which each time it's not just like, here's this one new thing. It's like, no, we're going to talk about 6 new things. At the start, it was like, let's just talk about the environment and the car sounds. The recent one, for example, was let's talk about the story. Let's talk about some progression stuff. Let's talk about this new car. Let's talk about the festival playlist. So there is a lot to digest, to the point where recently, our most recent article was actually an amalgamation of like 2 or 3 different things that they put out, right? Because they announced like a car via social media. They did a stream over here. There was something on the website. So it was like, oh, wow, okay, it's a lot to keep up. And so my general takeaway from it is actually there's a lot of more. There's more of everything. There's more vehicles. The map is so much bigger.
Yep.
Which is cool, right?
Too. More detailed as well.
Yeah, that's the key thing. I think everyone wants like this really big map so they can say how many square kilometers it is or how many square miles it is, right? It sells on the back of a box, or it says in a nice press release on the website, on the digital store in this day and age. Sorry, a bit out of date there. That look how big this map is, and everyone can say, oh, that's a bigger map than the other map, and that's a clear and obvious step forward, which is why you want to buy the next game. But it's more important to me that if there's more stuff to do, there's more detail. And so far, it seems to be that is the case. There's more distinction between the areas, right? Think about Horizon 4. There was like the Highlands and the town, and okay, there was like some woods and some stuff in between that. But this seems to be like, okay, there's completely different. There's a desert, there's a jungle, there's a town, and there's all sorts of interconnecting bits, which seems to be much more detailed.
Yeah, the environment seems fantastic. I am just north of Mexico in real life and have never actually been there myself. But
now you don't need to.
Yeah, exactly. Why bother now? So, but yeah, I'm really excited for Mexico as an environment. I think it's going to be really good. The variety, especially as you said, the fact that there's a volcano.
That's one I forgot. I forgot the volcano.
You definitely could not pop a volcano in Forza Horizon 4. There are no volcanoes anywhere in England or Scotland, as far as I know. Anyway,
definitely isn't.
Yeah, I was pretty confident about that. So yeah, I mean, it is kind of like an arms race. But what's weird about Horizon is it's almost an arms race against itself. You're talking about how they want to put the square mileage on the tin essentially to bring people in and stuff like that. But who are they competing against? What other game out there has that kind of? I mean, other than like GTA or something, but that's a completely different sort of game. So. It becomes a bit concerning for me when they focus on things like that, like the number of cars. I have never once talked to a single person who played Forza Horizon 4 who said, you know what? I wish there was more cars.
Yeah,
I need more cars in this video game. That was never the problem. And the size of the map as well, too, I think was never the problem as well. I think you're right. There were parts of the map that were a little boring. There just really wasn't anything going on over there. Yeah, exactly. Filler. You never go back there. There's no races that go through there or anything like that. It's just kind of empty and stuff. So I'm glad to hear that they're, working on these things. But again, that was never my major concern coming into this for Forza Horizon 5.
I mean, just to renege on what I said a bit, there's a fact which I can't quite remember, which is very unprofessional, but it's like the longest highway in a Forza Horizon game. I was like, well, that's like the most boring part of the map. I don't really care about the longest highway, right? I care about the mountains and the volcano. But it does sound like there's a load of that. And the jungle especially looks really cool. And they talk about the biomes. No one knew what the word biome was until the PR for this game. We all had to Google it. And it's true. It almost feels, from what we've seen so far without playing it, it sounds like it's almost 7 maps in one in a way, which is awesome. So, but... environment is one thing. It's what you do in the environment is another. And you just touched upon cars. Let's talk about cars for a bit. I think it's really cool that they've got like a new Ford Bronco and the Mercedes AMG. It's just called the AMG 1 now, but I think it's called the Project 1 in this game because that was the early name and it's the early version. All very confusing. Yeah. And they announced the Aston Martin Valhalla that's in Bond on the time when Bond's coming out, which is cool. And we've just had the DMC DeLorean, which is going to be the first free car in a festival place. So all that's like really interesting and nice. There's a lot of returning cars, but that's just how the Forza game universe works, right? They're all just sort of built upon each other each time, and they might have like graphical changes and stuff, but that's how they give such a big car list. Some of them go back to the first Horizon. I'm sure they've been updated since then, but that's the model starts from then, which is fine by me. I was expecting a few more of the newer additions in all the pre-release hype, but maybe we'll get more in this monthly cycle.
Yes.
But also... they showed off the customization of the Supra, which is really cool. But obviously the existing, Volkswagen Golf R that was in the previous Horizon, I don't think from what we've seen that you can customize it any more than you could before. Would that be something you would like to see or not? Is that just me?
I would like to see a little bit more customization. And I mean, I think part of the problem that they've run into as developers is that they had so many cars in past games. And people sort of expect it. And if you take away one person's favorite car, they're going to take to social media and they're just going to complain like, where's my Mitsubishi? Where's my Toyota?
Your Pulsar.
Yeah, exactly. Where's my Nissan Pulsar? So they feel almost obligated at this point, I think, to carry over as many of the cars as they possibly can. But yes, I would like to see more customization for cars rather than more cars necessarily. So,
and setup tweaks and stuff.
Yeah. Maybe even, I know this is very Need for Speed Underground of me, but like neon kits and stuff like that. I think there definitely is more that they can do. It's gotten better Certainly 4 was better than 3. Again, I don't know what 1 and 2 was like. I watched a lot of YouTube videos of 1 and 2 before playing 3. I watched a lot of Fail Race because he had a rally series where he would take cars, tune them up to a certain class, A class, S1 class, whatever it might be, take them all to the same track, test them out and see which ones are fastest and stuff like that. And so I got to see a little bit of the customization there, and I'm pretty sure 3 had more customization than the previous 2 games. And 4, as I said, 4 definitely had more than 3 did. So I'm hoping that there is a little bit of a step up, but I would like to see it closer to like a Need for Speed sort of thing. We don't have to go too far into it. You know, I don't need 20 different bumper options, but
like the Crew.
Right, exactly. And I think actually it's more of an issue with a lot of cars have no options. And some cars have a million options. And it does tend to be the cars that get modified the most in real life tend to be the ones that are the most modifiable within the game. So like a Civic or even Skyline, like a Mustang. Yeah. Just the cars that tend to get tuned and upgraded in real life tend to be the cars that get those sorts of options in Forza Horizon, which is fine, but it would be nice if there was more. And again, I think things like neon kits and stuff like that would work so well with the bright colors and stuff like that of the Forza Horizon franchise. And, you know, it's turned up to 11 in this new game, just from the promotional stuff, the marketing and stuff like that, like really bright pinks and yellows and blues and stuff like that. Yeah. They really, really do. And I like it too. And I'm a big fan, but I really think that like neon kits and stuff like that would be, or like interior glow, like you could set the inside of your car to glow a certain color, stuff like that, I think would be a really nice addition. We haven't really seen anything like that. Well, I mean, we got really excited just seeing that McLaren's roof go down in that one trailer.
That is the number one feature I'm excited for. You can put down the roof. But again, interesting. Is that on every convertible car?
Right. Or is it just that McLaren?
Is it just the McLaren? Just
some of them. Is
it the new ones that were added from 4 onwards? You know.
Right. It's certainly possible.
I hope it is, but
they put so much detail into the interior of the cars because, of course, they have the Forza Vista thing or whatever it is, where you can open the doors and the hood or the bonnet and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, but yeah, I would like to see more customization, but I don't mean it in the way of just more bumper options and stuff like that. Like I said, cool. We definitely don't need more wheel options either. There's plenty of rims to choose from.
I suppose one thing that they are improving on is the livery editor, or Americans might call yourself a paint booth.
Paint booth, yep.
Yeah, that seems to have been revised. Doesn't seem like you can upload your own logos and stuff like some other games into there, but it certainly has more depth, which is good. And on the car side, they've re-recorded the sounds to certain engines and stuff, which is really nice. They sound really good from the clips we have seen. Again, is that every car in there, or is it just some? I can only assume it's some. But either way, an improvement is good. And like you say, I fully agree. It's hard when you're in that numbers game of, we've got 600 cars. It's hard to go back for the next one and say, no, we've only got 200. But they're more detailed, honest, because, that one person who really cares for the 1970s Ford Escort is going to be pissed off. And then they're going to put it on Reddit, and they don't want that. And then, just on the colors, you've ordered one of the special controllers, right?
I did. I ordered it immediately as soon as it became available. I do have one special edition controller already, which is the Sea of Thieves one.
Oh, that's nice.
And I am a big fan of it. Supposedly it glows in the dark, but I wouldn't know. Mine's never been in sunlight, so to absorb the glow to it. So I have no idea, but it's really, really nice. You know, high quality and stuff like that. I also just prefer the Xbox controller. It feels great in my hands. I grew up on PS1 and PS2 and much preferred that over the original Xbox controller. But I really do think since the Xbox One came out, the Xbox controller really has been my personal favorite. It is 100%. You know, I'm not going to go out here and say it's better. It's just my personal favorite.
Yeah.
I just really like the heft of it, the way it feels. It just feels really good in my hands and stuff.
What's the special one for Horizon 5? It's like, is it opaque yellow? But it's got the splashes of pink and pink and yellow, blue triggers pink, there.
Blue, gold. There's some gold in, if I remember correctly, as well too.
It's snazzy.
Yeah,
and that will hopefully be arriving at the same time as the game. I think it is.
I don't know. They told me that it's
9th of November. Yeah.
They told me that they're going to charge. So I haven't been charged for it yet. They told me they're going to charge me like a week or two before it actually goes out. But I was one of the people that pre-ordered like immediately. I don't know if there was a limited quantity. I assume there is, or maybe it wasn't limited for pre-order. But then once the pre-order window closes, then it becomes a limited quantity.
Once the game is delisted from the store, you will no longer be able to buy it. Ooh, that's a touchy subject.
I mean, we probably should mention that. That is one of the biggest flaws with the Horizon games is that you cannot go back and play them.
Yeah, it's weird.
I assume licensing.
We assume licensing.
Reason. Yeah.
But then all the same cars are in the next. Well, it's not every single car is carried across, but
not every
the cars are carried across.
4 was missing. We were missing a lot of Toyotas in Horizon 4 for a while.
That was a specific Toyota. Whoever's at Toyota said we're not going to do video games for a while, and they only were in. No game had them other than Gran Turismo, I believe, which then has now, thankfully for everybody, stopped. So that could be a reason. You're right, but. Yeah, it's weird. Anyway, separate debate. It also applies to motorsport games. Anyway, with your controller, you're going to get an exclusive Forza Edition Ford Coupe. You hyped about that?
Yes, I am.
Oh, yeah. I was being sarcastic there.
No, I am. I'm glad that they include exclusive digital content because, it's nice to be able to be like, oh, look at my controller to people in real life, but nobody knows what controller you're using in the game. But if you're using that car, or whatever, people know you are a huge nerd and spent money on a limited edition controller.
That's a fair point, actually. It's
they'll know to bully me online when they see.
Yeah, you bought that controller. Oh, yeah, they can do that. What are your thoughts about the festival playlist? Because as you have played Horizon 4 a lot, I'm assuming that now you moved on to some other games a bit because it's been 3 years old, and there's no new cars coming for Horizon 4 when they update their festival playlist. So there's no real point for you playing it to do it anymore. However, for those who are perhaps new to the Horizon series or have forgotten how Horizon 5, they've not played 4, but they might play 3. Roughly, really quickly, how does a festival playlist work within the game, and why is it so important, especially if you want to collect vehicles?
So every month, you're going to get 4 new seasons of content, challenges and rewards that you can earn and all kinds of stuff like that. Could be hard to find cars like a Nissan Pulsar, or it could be an impossible to find car, a car that you can only earn through those sorts of things. But it's different this time, wherein you earn points. So it's one of those things where I really need to get my hands on it to sort of experience it, to really say whether or not it's a better system. So I'm hesitant to come out and say that it's going to be better or it's going to be worse than the way it was before. But I will say certainly the festival playlist system kept me coming back for a very long time. I think I played Forza Horizon 4 as recently as August, I want to say, something like that. It was pretty recently. I didn't play any in September. Part of that was because of other games coming out. There wasn't really new games coming out in the summertime for me anyway. So that's why I was going back to games like Forza Horizon 4. But I'm glad that they're changing things a little bit, because at times it did feel like the playlist was a bit of a chore. And I'm going to make a non-racing game reference here, but to anybody...
Hold on.
For anybody that is familiar with old school World of Warcraft anyway, you used to have to do your dailies. You used to have to get on every single day and do your daily quests to get your materials that you need in order to raid and stuff. And it just started to feel like a job. You know what I mean? It felt like I'm signing on to do this because I have to, not because I want to. And the playlist system is a bit of a mixed bag. It's a bit of both. You both want to do it, but then there are some challenges and stuff like that in it that are not that much fun, or they're forcing you to use a car or a type of class or a type of race that you just don't want to do. Like they'll have a challenge like, oh, you got to go do an S2 class street race. Like, well, I don't like doing S2 class street racing with traffic. Like, that's just not fun for me. So I'm glad that they're making changes to it, and I'm really keen to get my hands on it and actually experience it for myself. But it looks really good. It, like, just seeing how it looks on the screen and stuff like that, I'm really keen. I'm really interested in seeing, you know, how they're going to develop that and improve it for this latest title.
Same. It's a fun thing that keeps you coming back. And yeah, the appeal can wear out a bit, but if it's a new title and there'll be new vehicles every month for you to unlock from completing these challenges within what's called the festival playlist, as we've said, then that's cool, because we'll certainly be reporting on which new vehicles come each month.
Yep.
And that could also, even if you don't pick it up immediately and you wait and see if the game's any good or not first, there might be a new car that comes out as part of the festival playlist. Be like, ooh, gotta get that, gotta try that. And the points-based system is weird, but I think it's an improvement. But the points it gives out are very minimal. It's like 2 points for finishing this race.
Yes.
And then it's like, which is fine. So many games go, there's 6,446 points for this. And like, oh, well, I don't pay attention. So at least it's actually more, I don't know, understandable, I think. The other thing that they talked about recently was the story. Personally, I don't care about the story in 4, which is fine. Like some people might do, right? No problem. It sounds like until we play the game, they've doubled down upon that. But for me, the story in 4 sort of fizzles out quite early on anyway. And then you just go about enjoying playing the tasks and the challenges. And I wonder in 5 if it will also sort of, you'll be finished with it quite quickly, or it's actually going to be a more sustained thing that you have to pay attention to.
So the story stuff for me, I understand why they do it, and I'm not against having story stuff in the game. But you're right. In 4, it was not good. It was just not a good story, and it is a little bit concerning that they said it's basically a continuation of the story from 4.
Yeah, I was like, I can't remember the story to continue it. Like, what?
Right? I thought that was really, really strange. The fact that they would continue such a forgettable story. I mean, which fans were they talking to who were saying, oh yeah, my favorite part of Forza Horizon 4 was the voice acting, the unskippable voice acting scenes. That was the peak of that game for me. So I'm not against having a story if it's good, but I desperately want to be able to skip cutscenes. That is the big thing for me. I don't care so much about the content of the story, who's talking, what the subject is, that sort of stuff. I'm easygoing when it comes to that sort of stuff. But if I'm doing an event and they want to play some sort of voiceover before it to give me some flavor before I do a stunt driving challenge or whatever, fine, that's great. But let me skip past it if I fail the challenge and have to do it again, because I really, really don't want to hear that voice acting over and over again. So I think the biggest problem with the story stuff, as bad as the storyline was and as forgettable as it was, the bigger issue was the fact that the game just jammed it down your throat. There was no way to skip past it to avoid it.
Yeah, especially when you're repeating stuff, right?
Exactly. Like, you're watching that video and you're just gonna have to deal with it. And yeah, that's the part that I really, really didn't like. You know, I don't mind if they're gonna stick a story in there, but give me the option, please, to be able to skip past it. And some people don't care about the story. They're gonna skip past it immediately. You know, they're just gonna be mashing the A button on their Xbox controller over and over again until it goes to the next thing. And it doesn't do anything. You're wasting your energy smashing that A button in a Forza game. So I'm hoping that they have quality of life improvements like that for the game. I really hope that they were listening to people. Yeah. And I know for a fact people have been on the Forza forums complaining about this exact stuff, because I've been on there too, not complaining, but reading what other people are saying.
Oh yeah.
And
sure.
I know for a fact people would love to be able to skip the cutscenes, and at the beginning of the game as well. When you launch the game, it's just way too much time to get into the game itself. You have like a 30-second long thing that says it's Microsoft and Playground Games and Forza Horizon. And also it's like the loudest thing ever. If you're on earphones, it ignores your volume settings that you've set, and it just does maximum. So yeah, it's small things like that. But again, I'm totally cool with story stuff, but I am concerned that it's a continuation from the last game. Because the last game, I mean, objectively, the story stuff in Forza Horizon 4 is just not good.
Well, you don't need it, and you don't really care about it. And that's fine.
No.
It's fine. It's really good without it. It's not like a Need for Speed game. Like remember, like what was it called? Payback, where it was trying to be all heists and set up this story, and there's like all these full cutscenes and stuff. And it was still bad, and you couldn't really get around it. At least it's sort of forgettable and like inoffensive in some respects, obviously, apart from not being able to skip stuff when you're replaying levels, right? You know, you don't have to be invested in that story.
It's a small chunk.
Yeah, exactly.
It's annoying. It's not good, but it's a small chunk. It's not the majority of the game or anything like that. But no, you're right. I think the story of Forza Horizon games should be sort of the story of PS1 and PS2 Gran Turismo games. So like when you played Gran Turismo 4 or whatever, there's no like cutscenes with people talking or anything like that. I think there might be some text that you read at some point, because that's very just Japanese. Reading is what they love to do, and there is that kind of stuff. But the story is your progression through the game. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I think that it would work a lot better for Forza. I like the idea of the festival and everything like that, but I think they've gone a little bit too far with it, and it's a bit cringe, and it's a bit much.
We'll see. I suppose that saying, "Oh, and by the way, you can skip this if you don't want," is not something they would reveal on a stream. So it might still be possible, right?
Right.
And the smaller stuff might be in there. Let's hope, but they wouldn't talk about it at this stage because it's like, they want to talk about the cool stuff that is going to get you to buy the game. So
of course.
And which leads us on to another small point, which is the footage so far has either only been on a very, very top end PC or a Series X, and it's kind of obtuse as to which parts are on what. They seem to talk a lot about X, but was it actually on X, or is it on a PC, and is it target footage? Not too sure. So the ideal, they call it, instead of like, they've got minimum recommended and ideal. Now the ideal is basically the most powerful device you can buy in the world right now. Which I suppose you would say that, wouldn't you? But
right.
And they would never ever release at this point, here's what the game looks like on the Xbox One or on a mid-spec affordable PC, right? They wouldn't do that. But a big thing for me would be on release date, what does it look like for most people? Because it's quite bold to release it on so many devices for Microsoft. It's not normally what they've done on launch day in the past. First time on Steam, first time on 2 generations of console. Bearing in mind, there are also 2 versions of the One and 2 versions of the Series. Yep. So they have to sort of work all that out. So they've had 3 years. That's great. It's a showcase for them. Happy days. But we just don't know quite what most people will is the environment is pared back for the lower versions on or not? Or is it the frame rate or things like this? Actually, they have talked about frame rate, and it's 30 frames on everything apart from the Uber PC, which is a bit of a disappointment, I think. Could be wrong there. Yeah. But which is actually fine by me. I don't mind that, provided it's stable and it's detailed. There's always a trade-off, right? So, yeah. I mean, I don't know what device you'll be playing it on your PC and how it'll run, Justin. I don't know if you've looked into that.
I have not, but I thankfully, through work and stuff, I have a 2080 Ti, so I'll definitely be able to run it no problem. But yeah, I'd love to see what it looks like on like a 2060, because I think that's a great like kind of mid-range card and stuff like that. That's what a lot of people will have, or they'll have like a 1070. I don't think a lot of people have 30 series cards at this stage.
It's difficult to get hold of and price.
Yeah, the chip shortages and everything like that. But what I will say is that I played Forza Horizon 3 on a GTX 970 and played Forza Horizon 4 also on a GTX 970. I played it at both 1080p and 1440p. And while I did have to turn down the settings when I upgraded my monitor to 1440p, it still looked incredible because, the increase in pixels. So, you go down a little bit on like the anti-aliasing, but you're going up on the pixels, which is also kind of a version of anti-aliasing of sorts. So it ended up, kind of balancing out. And I will say, Horizon 4 ran better on my 970 than Horizon 3 did. Because of course, remember, Horizon 3 was the first for PC. They had only developed the games for a single console up until that point, which probably makes things very, very easy. And Horizon 3 did not run great at launch. In fact, it ran pretty poorly. But it got better with each update and patch and stuff like that, which they do. They release patches fairly often, fairly frequently. But by the time we got to Forza Horizon 4, it was sort of the same game, but just optimized. They learned a lot of tricks from updating Horizon 3, I think. So Horizon 4 out of the box just immediately ran really, really well, even on lower end hardware. Like I said, I was on a 970 at the time, and that was in 2018. So that was a pretty old card at the time, I think. And it ran, like I said, better than Horizon 3 did. As far as I know, Horizon 5 is sort of the same kind of graphics engine. It's not a major overhaul.
I think you're correct, yeah.
So I think they've increased the resolution of liveries, small things like that. But I think it's essentially still the same sort of guts underneath the graphical engine and stuff like that. So let's hope anyway that they've continued to make progress in terms of making sure that it runs smoothly on the lower end hardware. Because I will say Horizon 4 on PC, that's one of the things that it did really, really well, is even if you have a lower end PC, that game still looks really, really good.
Looks great on my little laptop here, yeah.
Exactly.
No
exactly.
The weird thing is, like, for me, there's like all these console shortages, right? But I mean, Sony still managed to sell like well over 10 million PS5s through, but trying to get a Series X is even harder, and it's selling less. So I don't know if that's a supply thing or what. So when people look at it, there's probably going to be a lot of people with a Series S or an Xbox One X, and that's the only reason I brought up that point. But if you've got an X and look at it, it seems to, this game looks visually incredible. The detail in the environments is amazing, and I hope a lot of people get to enjoy that. One of the things that really showcases the games, especially for those who haven't played it, that capture a lot of people's attention are what are called the showcase events, which are like these big set piece events. There's a handful in each of the Horizon games so far. There's actually a video and article on TraxionGG about the best ones.
Very early article. That was
very early days.
Yeah.
Old school Traxion. Obviously it excludes 5 because we haven't played 5. For 5, they've shown one so far during one of the Let's Go streams, which was with Ken Block's Koze. That's how you pronounce it. And Koze. That's it. You got it. Well done. And it's like, you're racing against a plane. Some motocross riders jump out. You're racing against them. There's a really big dive drop ramp thing at the end, which looks really cool. But otherwise, I was kind of like, feel like I've seen most of this before. So they're cool first time, but I don't know if you have any opinions on the showcase events and if you'd like to see more or less in 5.
They're all right. They're not what brings me to the game, though. I'll put it that way. They're not a major selling point for me. And honestly, I would be really happy if they dropped them in favor. If they came out and said, we're not going to do showcases anymore, but we're going to have static replay cameras for all of the tracks that we made and stuff like that. I'd be like, that's a very fair trade-off. Let's do that instead, please. Because certainly I think Forza Horizon, and I don't know if this is the wrong place to talk about this, but for such a pretty game, it does have a terrible replay system. I don't know if you've ever messed with it.
I've not even tried it, to be honest. I didn't even,
It's really, really bad. And it's really wonky as well, too. If I do like a really long race on Forza Horizon 4, then at the start of the race, everybody revs their engines up to max. And then when they change gear, the engine sounds are still at max RPM.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's this really, really weird glitch for really long races, at least for me on PC and stuff like that. So I like the showcases. I think they're fun the first time. But also, at the same time, it's hard to be impressed by them these days. They've done so many crazy showcases where you're jumping over trains and there's Halo stuff in the sky and warthogs going past you and jets flying overhead and stuff like that, that it's hard to impress people. I mean, maybe they should just take a year off from the showcases. It's one of those things, you don't miss something until it's gone. So maybe they just need to take the showcases away for 1 year, and then everybody will go, oh, you know what? I actually missed the showcases. And then they can bring it back. And they're huge fanfare, people in the streets, parades, people are thrilled about them coming back. But it's just such a small aspect of the game. And what I really don't like is when they make you redo them for the festival playlist stuff.
Yeah, they do. That's
when it gets a bit tiring. It gets a bit tiring.
Yeah, I suppose they're kind of optional if you want a car, you have to do them, right, and get those points. But
yeah,
they don't really replay them in the main missions. It's the festival stuff. Yeah. I agree with everything you said there. I think, which is really boring for a podcast, but we're supposed to be disagreeing with each other. Yeah, I would say as a whole, listening to ourselves, we've been a little skeptical about some elements, but that's not to say that we're not excited. We're just hopeful that there's a few things. Yeah, exactly. So just to clear
I am so excited about that.
Have you booked time off work?
No, but that's kind of because I'm hoping to get paid to play. I'm sort of hoping I could just stream it for 8 hours a day, 5 days a week for the first week that it's out or something. Because, oh man, I'm really, really excited for it. And again, just so people know at home, let's assume that they have not actually heard me talk at length about Forza Horizon before, but I'm one of those people that likes to play on wheel. I like to hook up my wheel and like get into it and stuff like that. Like I'm really, really into. Do
you know, on that, I swear during one of the Let's Goes, and because they've been going for a long time, I've forgotten the earlier ones. I swear in one of them they had someone sat in a sim rig playing it, and I was like, it's cool to play with a wheel. You don't need a rig.
You don't, but I would totally try it. I would totally try it. And I will always remember this. We had a podcast episode one time with John, the three of us. And I remember John saying that he tried Forza Horizon 4 on a wheel. And he said that he got sort of a feeling sort of like Dirt Rally. Not exactly, but he got like a Dirt Rally kind of vibe from it as he was going down. It was like one specific trail on the Forza Horizon 4 map, where suddenly he just got this feeling like, whoa, am I playing Dirt Rally or Forza Horizon 4? Not because the physics or anything like that, but just because of like the immersion and how good it feels. And it really does. And I'm really excited about that. And that's another thing that's improved massively from 3 to 4 and hopefully to 5, is they like, for example, in 3, you had to show the wheel when you were in cockpit view. You couldn't hide the wheel. But in cockpit view, the wheel could only turn 90 degrees.
Yeah, still a thing of flaw, but you just change the view, right?
Exactly. Now you can just hide the wheel entirely and things like that. And also, I think you can turn off in Forza Horizon 3. I don't think you could turn off, at least initially, you couldn't turn off the windshield braking, which is a huge disadvantage because there's not a lot of damage model in Forza Horizon. But one of the few ways to tell that you have damage is that your windscreen gets broken. But when you're in cockpit view, you're at a huge disadvantage. You know, if you're on controller playing third person, who cares if your windscreen is broken? It doesn't matter. But in cockpit view on a controller or on a wheel, it can be a real problem. So, certain things like that have me really excited because they've made steps forward in a lot of areas from 3 to 4 and hopefully from 4 to 5 as well. And I cannot wait. That first day, I'm going to be exhausted. I am going to be so tired from playing Forza Horizon 5. I can't wait. Honestly, I'm thrilled.
So on that note, I suppose we should say that follow Traxion.gg, maybe follow Traxion on Twitch as well.
Yep.
We might see Justin on there.
Twitch.tv/TraxionGG. It actually rhymes.
That's cool. And, we'll keep you updated with all the Forza Horizon stuff when it comes out, which is the 9th of November. Just quickly before we go, rapid fire wager. Do you think there'll be when do you think Horizon 6 will be? Will it be 2020? Three or 4?
Will it be 3 or 4? I'm going to go with 4 because I think they're going to do. I think this is going to be the last of this kind of like generation, and I think it might get a little bit of a reboot. Sort of.
I think a reboot would be good because could you do 6 games on the same game engine that's sort of upgraded? Not sure. Well, I'm going to disagree just for the sake of the podcast. I'm going to say there's going to be another one. It's going to be 6, and it's going to come 2 years after launch. So that's 2023.
I'd be happy either way, to be honest. More
There you
Forza
go.
Horizon games, either it's sooner or better quality. I'm a happy boy either way.
Nice one. All right, so that just about finishes our Forza Horizon hype episode, as we'll call it. Thank you very much, everybody, for listening. If you're on YouTube, let us know what you're excited about and also what you're maybe a bit trepidatious about with Forza Horizon 5 in the comments.
Good word.
Yeah, I know. Pulled that out. I've been reading the dictionary again recently. And also, if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or Google Podcasts, give us a follow or a subscribe. It's free. It helps out the podcast. It means we can do more episodes for you. Thank you very much for those listening recently. It's been doing very well. We're back in this third season now. And visit Traxion.gg on a daily basis. But as for Horizon 5, we've said it a few times already, but it's November the 9th on PC and the Xboxes. Justin will be playing it on a wheel, even though he's spent $60 on a controller. And we're all looking forward to it. All right, keep it pinned.
Bye.